fuck. Okay, I got your voice message. Omigang.
That's what she was
Omigang.
saying. We keep saying it wrong.
I keep saying it wrong. Barb sent me a message and was like, damn it, Caitlin. And sent me like in a very nice way, not in like a fuck you, Kevin.
In a great way, but Barb was not having it.
No, there were a bunch of hearts and stuff. If you just add a bunch of hearts to the words, damn it, it sounds nice. But yeah, I'll get it right one day, I promise.
That's the secret. If you have something mean to say, just add some heart emojis.
Or my favorite is the upside down smiley face.
You
know, I like a good passive aggressive emoji. But yes.
So sometimes when things are with a wink, I'm like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, the upside down smiley face is a better level of passive aggressive. Because a wink can be like, bless your heart, you fucking idiot. Gesundheit. No, what do you say? Salante?
I say sante. That's French.
Saliva.
Or your thing is slancha, which is Irish.
Saliva.
You know what? We rarely represent porters and stouts. We do around the holidays, I will be fair, a lot, which we're going to get into our seasonal beer soon.
Shit.
But this is a great smooth porter. It's not that sweet, but it's also not bitter. It's a very good in-between. I know Maui Brewing distributes all over the United States, so I would highly recommend this porter if you're looking for something that's a delicious kind of cocoa-y dessert beer, but isn't going to give your sweet tooth like a little ache.
There's only 24 Saturdays until Christmas. That's all. This is a good beer. I wasn't listening. I was counting how many Saturdays there were until Christmas. But I agree with whatever you said.
I gave the most beautiful description I've ever given.
This is really, it is coconutty. I like it's because porter and stouts, I love coffee, but sometimes they're too coffee-y in like the sweet kind of way. I'm not a sweets person, unless it's a Reese's.
Mm-hmm.
But it hits you like a porter that's dark and sweet, but it has that like, because coconut can be a little bitter, like fresh coconut. It has that like bitter.
It's a sweeter, more flavorful Guinness. Like it's not heavy. It's
drink
light.
Your cat.
I drink cats.
Okay, who's the girl in Tiger King?
Carol Baskin.
Can you say it without a country accent?
Carol. Carol. I think I say Carol like that anyways.
Try to say her name without a...
Carol Baskins. Carol Baskin. Was that good?
Killed her husband, whacked him. Can't convince me.
Okay.
It did. Sorry, go ahead. Tell your story.
No, but it's true. You can't say Carol Baskin without saying it. Everyone at home, you're like roommates,
Carol Baskin.
Your roommates and husband and kids and all those people who are in the room when you're listening are going to be like, why do you just keep whispering Carol Baskin? Ask Siri, however she says it, make her say it, and then we'll know.
Hey, Siri. Look up Carol Baskin.
Carol Baskin is an American big cat.
Carol Baskin.
Shall I
Tampa.
continue?
No, but your accent is nice.
Okay.
Okay.
You just came. Okay. We're bringing it down, though, because I'm going to talk about a serial killer who I'd never heard of.
We haven't had a serial killer in a hot minute.
And I'm going to be talking about the Rainbow Killer.
You've never heard of him?
Yeah.
Assuming it's a dude.
We don't know. It's unsolved.
It's a dude.
It's most likely a dude. Okay, my sources are Tom Phillips for the Observer Brazil, a website called Estadio, the Sydney Morning Herald, and a website, which I don't mean to laugh, but the name is very fun, gaytravelforyou.com.
I want to join that.
I know, it's for you as in the letter U. And I also got some information on Wikipedia. This case was shockingly difficult to find information on. I'm going to do the best I can with it. And also, like Caitlin, I apologize for anything I say incorrectly. So this takes place in a city called Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo is a vibrant community near the eastern coast of South America in Brazil. It's known for its beautiful weather, its rich history, its diverse geology. It's also known for its sexual diversity, and it has the largest pride celebration in the world, which at first when I read that in an article, I was like, no, it doesn't. And then I looked and it was like, largest pride celebration in the world happens in Sao Paulo.
That is really cool.
And I was like, okay, that is amazing. It led me to want to look up some statistics because I saw an article that said nearly 10% of men and 7% of women in Sao Paulo identify as non-straight. And for some reason, I was like, that seems like a lot. So I looked up the stats, and sociologists and people who study like gender sociology believe that there are large percentages of people who are not heterosexual who just don't claim to be, you know, for whatever reason, or they're not out or what have you. I took a class in college called Human Sexuality where we looked at some of the statistics. Like most things, and I'm not trying to mansplain to anybody, but like most things, everything exists on a scale. So say you have a line that's a scale, and you have hetero on maybe the left and homo on the right, and in the middle is bi. Most people fall somewhere on that scale. It would be quite uncommon to be exactly at hetero, exactly at homo, exactly at bi. You're probably...
I'm not sure that homo is the right term.
I mean, when you're abbreviating them, heterosexual, bisexual, homosexual.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm just abbreviating all of them.
No, I didn't think you were. I just wasn't sure that. But no, I see what you're saying. You're shortening both.
Yeah. So I mean, homosexuals and like the definition.
My bad.
No, you're fine. I probably shouldn't just say homo. Like that seems offensive. But anyway, so most people follow somewhere on that line. So 10% of men identify in Sao Paulo as non-straight and 7% of women. So I decided to look up the stats for the USA. The highest percentage of people who identify as non-straight, so that's anything that isn't hetero, happens in the District of Columbia. 8.6% of the population identify as non-straight. And then I wanted to look like stateside. Maryland has the highest amount of people identifying as non-straight at 5.7%. So that's nearly half of the people in Sao Paulo. The lowest is South Dakota, where 2% of people outwardly identify as non-straight.
I mean, I've been to South Dakota.
Have you? Why?
Yeah, my grandpa lived there.
Oh, I didn't. No, I think I did know that.
Yeah, I went to South Dakota to see him right before he passed. And no one lives in South Dakota.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't mean to be rude. I've never been there.
No, I get it.
So then I looked up U.S. cities. Like that was stateside. So I was like, well, what about cities? So San Francisco is 15.4%, the highest of people who are outwardly identify as non-hetero. And then the lowest I couldn't find, but it seems to be like a very rural, small community, probably in a state like South Dakota.
Texas.
Or Texas. Anyways, so Sao Paulo is actually one of the most tolerant places in Latin America for diverse sexualities. And it's quite large with 400,000 people. So it's a large city. So something happened in July of 2007 in Sao Paulo. But first, let's set the scene. So there's a place in Sao Paulo called Pituras Park. Pituras Park, which I looked up, has 3 stars on TripAdvisor. And I just wanted to know some more about it. I guess TripAdvisor is one of my sources too. Sorry.
Are those Michelin stars?
Oh, stop. When reading about it, it seems like it's a bit of a sketchy park maybe, but there were only a couple reviews, so it's like wasn't a large enough data pool. There's a large pond at the park, and the scenery is really nice with the views of like skyscrapers in the background of Sao Paulo. And this park is in the northeast section of Sao Paulo and is a known area for sex work. In February of 2007, 32-year-old Jose Cicero was in Pituras Park. Jose was an outward member of the LGBTQ community in Sao Paulo, and his body was found in Pituras Park with a .38 caliber gunshot wound to the head. He was half nude and his pants were pulled down to his knees. This would begin a series of murders with a few commonalities. Male, aged 20 to 40, a stripped half nude, shot, and gay. The victims, not much is known on them, but I will speak to the ones that I could find. Early in the case, a man went to the police, claiming he had found 3 bodies in Pituras Park. He said they were male, the pants were pulled down, they had a gunshot wound, all in Pituras Park. The second victim was Jose Pereira, and he was a local bricklayer. He had children, grandkids. He was 58 years old. The third victim was 35-year-old Uberidon Souza. And then the fourth was Jose Rafael, a single 43-year-old man. Interesting enough, Jose Pereira's, he had a wife, and his wife was like, he was absolutely not gay. Like, I'm married to him, blah, 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 blah. I couldn't actually find a lot of information on that other than she was a preschool teacher, and she was like, no, he's not gay. But then he keeps being like lumped into this case because he was found, same thing, Pituras Park, gunshot wound, pants pulled down. And typically the string had been gay men either looking for gay sex to pay for it, or who were providing gay sex and paying for it. So after some preliminary investigation, the police quickly discovered that all the victims were gay. And that was like the one, well, they called it like the one common factor. But I'm like, I think there were other common factors. But that was one of them.
But I know what you mean, though. Like sometimes they're like, oh, they're all blonde-haired women under 5'5". Like they're trying to find something to link them together as why were they targeted?
Yes.
You know, were they targeted because they were gay?
Yeah, but there could be many reasons. So the man who found the bodies was suspicious to the police. I couldn't figure out why, but they were like, he seems suspicious. And so they tested him and his belongings for like gunshot residue, like what he wore that day, kind of all that. And they didn't really find anything. So after this, the guy who came forward saying, I found the bodies, under the protective pseudonym Leonardo, began working with the police since he frequented the park and he was known among others in the gay community. Like, it never said how, like whether he was a sex worker or like purchased sex work or whatever it was. But anyways, people knew him and he frequented the park. So they're like, can you please work with us? So Leonardo, who I don't know his real name, talked about the lure of Patoris Park. He told the Brazilian police that this was the place for meetups. Like, if you're going to Patoris Park, like, you know why you're going to Patoris Park. He said, no one is going to stop going to Patoris Park just because of this wacko. Like, he's like, there will be more people who die because this is like the place to do this. He didn't say that, but I think that's kind of what he was meaning. The police had no suspects at all. In fact, aside from Leonardo, they had not connected the series of murders together yet, which kind of blows my mind. They just knew all these different murders were happening. For some reason, they didn't think it could be the same guy, which is kind of odd to me, but what have you. I'm going off of information that was not very rich. It wasn't until the fall of 2008 that the murders were connected. So like a year later, the Brazilian police said, we are dealing with a suspect who kills homosexuals exclusively. In his mind, he's clearing up the place. He doesn't like, in fact, he hates homosexuals. And who is he? We don't know. I mentioned the 4 murders that happened. More murders happened. There was 1 to 4, 4 to 8, and then all the way to 12 by Christmas of 2008. And all the bodies were in Patoris Park. So I'm going to read about, honestly, it's just the names of some of the victims because I couldn't find any information on them, but I didn't want to leave them out.
Yeah.
So some of the victims' names were Junior Ferreira de Silva. He was 34 and he had driven to the park in a Honda. I'm giving like all the information I could find. There's Anderson de Silva. He was 26 and he had walked to the park. He was a pedestrian. Raimundo Francisco. He's 35 and he had left his bike in the park. Angelo Magalhães. He was 34. There was Antonio Figueira. He drove there. Miguel Gonçalves. He was 47 and drove in a Fiat to the park. Ivanildo Nero. He was 25. And then there was a Jane Doe, a female, and they don't know if she was related or not, but she was supposedly killed in a similar fashion. So they kind of lumped her in with this, but they didn't really know. So from what I can tell, because there wasn't a ton of reporting on this, I mean, it was obvious the police were looking, but at the same time, I'm like, I feel like they were just either not paying enough attention or confused because, like, maybe she was part of it and maybe not. Like,
well, I guess it would depend. Was she found with another man? Because maybe she just happened to walk in on the scene. Maybe, you know what I mean? She could have just been in the wrong. Well, I mean, they're all in the wrong place at the wrong time, but maybe she saw something and
there really was no information. At this point, the Sao Paulo police had 15 detectives on the case. And each murder was re-examined and re-looked at time and time again, from what I could read. And at this time, police knew they had a horrid serial killer who they named the Rainbow Maniac after the pride flag. So I
don't love that nickname.
I don't either, but that is what he's called, the Rainbow Maniac or the Rainbow Killer.
Yeah.
So what about the victims? Like, I said some names. The one was a trans individual who was shot in a love motel. That's what they kept saying. I'm assuming this is speculation on my part. I'm assuming that's a hotel where people
known for
buy
sex work.
Yeah. So he was shot in a love motel. Actually, this individual was. I don't know if they identified as he or she. So the police believe that this person also fell victim to the Rainbow Maniac. Many were not shared in the media any information about themselves other than their name, which was terribly difficult to find. So the modus operandi was the same over and over until victim 13, 34-year-old Angelo Magalhães. So I mentioned the name earlier.
Oh, that's the same last name as
Yes, as the person
cop.
in your case, Mago Hayes. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But this man was killed in a different way than the previous victim, so they still think the Rainbow Killer did
maybe
this.
just changing or
but also I'm not 100% sure the Rainbow Killer did